Welcome to Transformation Matters. Shift from grumpy to grateful, from heartbroken to happy, from helpless to hopeful, from jealous to joyous, and cluttered to clarity. Using 12 themes from the book Live Inspired, stories of brave self-discovery and the wisdom gleaned along the way, I will be sharing an idea, a brief story, and tips you can practice to engage a holistic transformation of your heart, space, and life. I'm Laura Staley, founder of Cherish Your World and author of Live Inspired. I passionately guide people to heal, transform, and thrive. Today I'm focused on the importance of unraveling those emotional meltdowns. Do you or anybody you know have moments where they just come unglued? They lose it. Whether it's privately or publicly, I suppose most of us have witnessed or been close to a small child having a full-blown temper tantrum. But then you might notice that as an adult, you've either witnessed adults having the same situation, or you yourself struggle with reactivity, emotional reactivity. So rather than pausing, you just kind of like spout off. Hopefully, we can learn a new way and interrupt those patterns. And yet sometimes we get to adulthood and notice that we're still having these losing it moments. So I'm asking that question today. What can we do to interrupt what I call that anger shame cycle of the buildup and then that meltdown? I know this world well because I suffered with PTSD. I had a number of traumas that happened throughout and persistently throughout my childhood and deep into my adulthood. And the story I'm going to tell you today is about when I became a mother of two young children. And this is when the juncture in my life in which I really acutely began to notice these episodes, I would call them episodes of melting down and losing it with my kids. And my then husband came to me at one juncture, and some part of me knew that this was happening. I was aware enough, that inner fly on the wall, I know we talked about that last time, was aware. I probably could describe to you what this looked like and felt like, and yet I was defensive. He's like, you're scaring the kids, you're kind of scaring me. I knew I was angry, but I was like, oh, well, they need to know what anger looks like. But then it kind of planted that seed, because really I wasn't committed to scaring my children or perpetuating those experiences that I had as a child. So I noticed that I had this, what I dubbed Lois. I called her Lois, and it was my psycho bitch from hell. And often it would happen when I was just overstimulated, like I was tired and with two small kids who they also are trying to emotionally regulate, and I myself was not emotionally regulated at all. I couldn't bring calm when my body felt so hyper vigilant and overstimulated, because I hadn't resolved my own inner trauma. And then there was the day that I came unglued for the last time in front of my kids, and I witnessed myself. I felt the heat in my body. I felt all those sensations, and that inner fly on the wall just watched me become this god-awful cartoon character, spewing and spouting and fuming. And I opened my eyes to see the terrified faces of my two young children. And I was awash with shame. And I ran into the bedroom and wept into the bed And the very next day, I called and made an appointment to get somatic work and begin to resolve this god-awful trauma, unresolved trauma that lodged in my nervous system. And by the way, you can't think your way out of post-traumatic stress. It's lodged in the body. So if something comes at you that smells like, looks like, feels like something from the past, that's the trigger that can just set the whole thing aflame. And it's in your body. So affirmations aren't the pathway. You literally have to go to the body. And I know for some people, it's just a matter of spouting off. You may not have traumas, but you may notice that you go from 0 to 100 in a second. And people walk away, they don't hear you. It's hard to hear you because you're just so reactive as opposed to responsive to people in your life. So I wanted to share that story because I know this reactivity really, really well. But I have 3 practices, and these are things that really began to support me in interrupting my own meltdowns because I was hugely committed to breaking the cycle. I didn't want my own children to live fearful of their own mother. I wanted them to feel safe and loved by me. So the first of these is you got to ground in your body. You got to go to the wisdom of your body. It makes such a huge difference to notice. Do your cheeks get hot? Does your stomach clench? Do you grip your eyes? Are your toes curled? Is your heart pounding? Are there sweat beads forming at the base of your neck? What's happening in your body? And begin to sink into your body to notice all of these. And pause and breathe and breathe and breathe. The other is, I call it clipping the wire before the bomb explodes. So as you're noticing and tracking it back and tracking it back and tracking it back to all those body sensations before the explosion of you, you can practice this amazing technique that I learned. You get to soften your eyes, and you can do this when you're calm. So practicing this when you're calm can allow you to access it when you start to get those sensations that the buildup of anger, you're feeling it in your body. So soften your eyes, place the tongue on the roof of your mouth. By the way, that mimics feeding, and it sends a signal to your brain to go to calm, to shift out of the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system. Feel your feet if you're standing, bend your knees, and find dignity in that spine and lift it up through the top of your head, and breathe. And you can practice this. Again, soft eyes, tongue on the roof of the mouth, lips parted, that dignity in the spine, and lift your body up, and you'll feel yourself relaxing. And then I like completing that posture, if you will, or that pose by placing my hands over my heart. You could even be in a meeting and seated at a meeting and engage this practice if you notice somebody saying something that you just don't agree with. And you start to notice those sensations, either the chatter in your mind or those body sensations. And you can just, shift into softening your eyes and placing the tongue on the roof of your mouth, and see if that can bring you some calm. It's unbelievably helpful. The other is to just simply place yourself in time out. If you are definitely reactive and you're wanting to interrupt that pattern, have that knowledge, excuse yourself, take a time out, and then do practices that are safe for you to roar like a lion, punch some pillows, rip up some recycling, use your body, go for a run, go get in the pool and swim laps. Moving your body to dispel the energy of anger can be incredibly helpful. But it's still getting up underneath what is actually triggering your anger. That's really, really important to come to some understanding of and begin to dissolve it so that a new pattern can emerge and that you can go to the pause. We talk about the pause so much, right? In fact, Viktor Frankl has that fabulous quote. He's a Holocaust survivor, and he wrote A Man's Search for Meaning. And he shares about, between stimulus and response, there's that space. And in that space, we can find our response. And in our response, we find our freedom and our power, our sense of empowerment. And truly, when you can choose silence or choose the words that are aligned with your heart and soul, wow, people will really be able to hear you, and you'll really interrupt this emotional reactivity. It's so profound, and it's absolutely a practice. So join me next time, and we'll focus on the death of pretending, bringing closure to the imposter syndrome. So for those of you who notice that you pretend, yay, you'll want to tune in next time for that. You've been listening to Transformation Matters, shifting your experience of being alive, from grumpy to grateful, from jealous to joyous, and from cluttered to clarity. You're with your host, Laura Staley, founder of Cherish Your World and author of Live Inspired. You are loved more than you can even imagine. You matter. Till next time.